Hey, soul sister, we're back for another episode, and we've got a juicy one today about how to spot toxic relationships and narcissistic men and how to avoid them. Good to have you here, ladies. We have Sherry and Carla in the house. So good to have you guys here. Thanks for carving out some time to be with us with this great topic.
Yes, we're very excited to be here. The Love Fix is in the house.
Love Fix is in the house. Yeah, they have this great podcast called The Love Fix, which I was on recently. And I was like, you guys have to come on and share all your golden wisdom. So let me give you a snippet of who these amazing women are. Carla Romo is a certified life coach, and Sherry Gaba, licensed counselor of social work, LCSW. Did I get that right?
Licensed clinical social worker.
Thank you. I was like, oh, what were those letters again? And she's a coach. You're a coach as well. And they say, love doesn't have to suck. I love that. I love that. I love that. They know this from overcoming their own dating journey and relationship horror stories, which led them to be experts in healing from codependency, dating, and toxic relationships. Oh my God, the women need to hear all of your things. So these two women, their 30-year age difference brings you an array of perspectives for any stage in life. So if you're dating or you're in a relationship or you're divorced, they've got your back with leading experts. They host the podcast, The Love Fix, offering the latest tools on how to navigate dating and how to thrive in a successful relationship. Yes, that's why you're here, because this woman who's listening to you is in the second half of life, and maybe she's dating, maybe she's questioning dating, maybe she's going, dang, this is really tough out there. There's a lot of moving pieces when it comes to opening up our heart and doing it in a way that's safe or safe-ish. So I think we should just like dive right in. Let's just start with toxic relationships. What is your definition of a toxic relationship? Because I'm sure it can really run the gamut.
Well, Sherry and I probably have similar definitions, but I would definitely say that a toxic relationship is a relationship where you can't communicate in a healthy way. There could be name calling. There could be putting somebody down. There could be abuse, whether it's verbal or physical. It doesn't matter. Abuse is abuse. And there also could be codependency, right? There's a whole spectrum of different things, but it's not feeling safe within the relationship. And that can be through communication. That can be physical.
Yeah.
I know for sure if you're with someone that you're trying to set a boundary with and they go a little ballistic, that is a sure sign you're with a full-blown narcissist. I like to always say as a therapist, the caveat that not everybody's a narcissist or narcissistic personality disorder or diagnosed with NPD, but they can also have traits. A lot of people today have traits, but I totally agree with Carla. It's a feeling of not being safe, walking on eggshells. As codependents, we often feel really guilty for everything. So they make us feel guilty. And being a codependent, I mean, they say, well, no one can make you feel guilty, but they are so manipulative that they can actually, cause you to have, second guess yourself, really.
Yeah.
And again, the fighting, the manipulating, the controlling behaviors, yelling, insulting, there could be, God forbid, physical injury, a lot of disrespect, a lot of devaluing, discarding, dishonesty. God, that could be a whole thing. The 4 Ds.
I was going to say, we're just like going on and on. Yes. It's a big spectrum.
Yeah. And I'll just, I know we'll be talking about this some more, but the bottom line is if you're losing yourself and you are not, doing your self-care, you're kind of like making them your whole life, that may be a sure sign that you're obsessed with a narcissist.
Or just in a toxic relationship.
Relationship. Yes, exactly.
There's a lot there. Okay. There's a lot there. Well, firstly, I totally related to the feeling like it's your own fault years ago. And now that I know what I know, and I've done the work that I've done and listened to people like you, it's like, oh, wow, he really was a narcissist, because anytime something went down and I was like, hey, we need to have a conversation because I know how to communicate pretty well. It's kind of what I do. And suddenly I was like, I was apologizing and I was feeling like shit. I'm like, oh, this is what they call gaslighting. Not able to take responsibility for their side of it, and suddenly pointing the finger. And then me, because I'm always looking at my stuff going, oh, thank God I've done so much work around that to spot it. And with that said, it can run really deeply into all the history and all the relationships we've had around not wanting to blow up a relationship. So my question to you around this is, how do you do this in the beginning of a relationship? I mean, sometimes you could talk to someone online, you could spot it right away, like, oh, wow, there's like something there. Or you could feel it in your body. Oh, wow, I'm not feeling safe here. Or they're over controlling or manipulating. However, a lot of times in the beginning of a relationship, it's really hard to spot. I'm just wondering, are there any red flags that you can identify in the beginning of, hey, nice to meet you. Let's have coffee.
Well, I think the love bombing, and we both can speak on this. I do
Yeah.
want to go back though for a second and say
Yeah.
that narcissists don't have the capacity, a true narcissist, and perhaps someone that's toxic, to see their part. Their brain is wired differently than the normal person per se. So anyone that, why they can't, why they can't handle boundaries, why they can't hear your part, they're always right, you're always wrong, is because they literally don't have the capacity. But I would say love bombing is the first telltale sign that someone is a narcissist. And a couple of aspects of love bombing is lavish gifts, texting constantly, complimenting you all the time. I had somebody about a year and a half ago said, I'm going to marry you on a first date, which is like red flag, red flag. But
no thanks.
exactly, like, uh-oh, you're definitely not for me. But of course we have to look at our part, or the part, I'm a codependent love addict in recovery, and Carla can share her history. But we if you're not in recovery, you love all that attention, you like all those goodies. So you have to be really careful about looking at your part, not just pointing the finger at them.
And I am going to also say this too. Follow your damn gut. Like, that is the number one red flag. I was working with a client yesterday and we were talking about, she attracted literally somebody who was like a psychopath and had this whole split life. He even had his family going with it. And I mean, he's very sick, clearly. And she was conned by him. And I asked her, okay, so what was your first indicator? Did you ever feel like your gut was off? And she said yes, but he did such a good job at being able to create and make her feel calm that she was like, well, it makes sense when he says it. But the thing is that if your gut is off, it's off. Like, follow your intuition. It doesn't lie. That's another really big indicator. And I just have to put this out there as well. Like, we're all professionals, but we are even like susceptible to getting conned by psychopaths, narcissists, sociopaths, all of those types of people. This is their skill. Like Sherry just said, their brain is hardwired this way. Like, it's very hard to quote unquote figure it out in the beginning.
Right. That's a really good point. Absolutely. And we're human. Everybody, any of us can be vulnerable to that kind of behavior and be manipulated.
Still, my brain is like, so many questions I have coming up. So let me ask this question, and then we'll piggyback on the other question, which is, we have the narcissist. So somebody who has those challenges of self-responsibility and boundaries and all that stuff, that leads toward a toxic relationship, but not all toxic relationships are narcissistic. Would you say that's true?
I do.
Yeah.
Sherry, what do you think?
It was just like what I was saying earlier. You can be an MPD, a real narcissist, but you can be toxic and not be a full-blown narcissist. And I want to go back again to the being sucked in by these guys. Remember, if we're codependent or we're love addicts, or we want to be in a relationship so badly, we're going to want to believe what we want to believe because we want the goodies. And we're going to go into fantasy. That is part of being a love addict, is like we go into fantasy world. We want to believe the illusion. So I point this out because I think a lot of us beat ourselves up like, well, how did I get into that? And some of the most successful women will end up with narcissists for sure. But yes, I think you can absolutely be with a toxic person that isn't right for you, who isn't full-blown narcissist.
Well, I can even speak to my own story of being in codependent relationships where not everybody I was codependent with was a narcissist. They were maybe addicts or had mental illness. And I wanted to save and fix them because what would that do as a codependent? Give me self-esteem. Well, it's temporary. It's not actually a real fix, but those were toxic relationships and they were not with narcissists. So I really believe that you don't have that. Not everybody who's toxic is a narcissist.
Yeah, great point. It's so true. And by the way, I'll point out that addicts and alcoholics, when they're not in recovery, definitely have narcissistic traits because they become very selfish. It's all about getting their drugs and their alcohol. And so they will become monsters in their disease. And if they have recovery, that might be a different story.
One of the things I'm hearing you both speak to is it's not just about them. We're bringing our stuff to the table too. And we need to continue to do our work, whether we are codependent in nature or in desire of feeling valued or whatever it is that when we're dating, that's why, I have my program, the Midlife Love Unleashed program, to help people unpack the past so they can actually go, oh, this is who I am now with healthy boundaries and communication. Otherwise, we keep repeating the same patterns. And I know that I need to be impeccable when I am out there and connecting, because I just recently shifted relationships. And it's really interesting what you just said about like, I think the love bombing was like, oh, wow, look at him showing up for me. Oh, it's so like after being in the desert for the last few years with the last relationship I had, he was amazing in a lot of ways, but I was in a fucking desert. So now it's like, oh, here's somebody who's complimenting me. Here's somebody who's showing up for me. Yep. And I don't know if he necessarily was love bombing in a toxic way. He, that's me with my glasses up. Oh, he seemed like a really nice guy, but it didn't work out. But at the end of the day, it was like, oh my God, this feels so good. And then to be able to go, well, let me take a step back and notice what I'm liking, what I'm not liking, and not just drink the Kool-Aid. So,
and definitely looking at the denial piece. I mean, I had a date not that long ago, and I'll just use it as an example. If you're someone that goes on a date and like Carla said it so perfectly about the red flags, I saw an alcoholism red flag. The old me would have went, oh, well, maybe he was nervous. Oh, maybe he's just, I don't know. But he went through like a bottle of wine, which for me went over my limit of what I think is acceptable drinking, especially if you have to get in a car. Yeah. So the good news is I'm not that person anymore. I was able to say, no, you may not be an alcoholic. I have no idea, but I'm not interested. But really look at that denial. Why is it you don't want to look at the truth? What are you afraid of? You're afraid of being alone? Are you afraid of rejection? Are you afraid of abandonment? Really, that's really part of looking at your part.
Yeah. And that's the tricky thing I find for myself as well, which is, when am I being a hard ass and what are my real deal breakers? It's like, when am I making excuses of, well, okay, that's, how he's being, it's not so bad versus, oh, he just drank a bottle of wine. That would be a total deal breaker for me too. It's like indicative of not okay.
Yes. Yeah. I would say a game changer for me was that I learned I could trust myself. So I sit in a gray space when I'm dating, or even like in, past relationships and things like that. And I'm an observer, right? Because you never fully know your partner. It is just the truth. And if you're coming from a toxic place of toxic relationships, you're probably trying to get the relationship, like in the sense, oh, you're trying to figure out the relationship and be in a place that you can finally be okay. And then you can just relax and you're going to be good. And there's your happily ever after. Doesn't exist. Healthy relationships have their ups and downs too. But what I rely on is I can trust myself. I can trust my gut. Intuitively, I know if something's right or not, and then I lean into it. Whereas Sherry's talking about the denial piece. Oh, baby, I used to turn away from that. I used to be like, I don't want to see it. It's fine. I can't ask the questions. I just lean full force into it. And then I observe and I just observe with information. And then I know that, okay, if there is some kind of flag, or I notice somebody's drinking is too much or whatever, then I can trust that I will make the best decision for myself to say, I don't think that this is going to work out for me.
I love what you said about the gray space. I just really want to underline that, to be in that place of, we don't know until we know. And even the healthiest of relationships will have its ups and downs, to be in that observer place and not buy a ticket to the show right away. What were you going to say, Sherry?
I was going to bring up the caveat that if you were someone that grew up and you felt invisible, you were neglected or abandoned and didn't get what you needed, sometimes you don't know why you don't trust yourself. So I love what Carla says, and learning how to trust yourself is something you do when you go to therapy, or you hire a great coach or however you do it, that is so important to be able to trust yourself. That is one of the number one questions I get asked in my work is, well, when will I trust myself? When will I know?
Yeah.
And so if you never got that as a child, of course you're not going to know, because nobody mirrored what you just didn't get that. So it's very important to work on those issues.
So good. And a lot of times people will come to me and say, I don't trust anybody. I don't trust anybody. And I say, well, there is something to be said about trusting others, and it starts with trusting ourselves. So I love that you guys are mentioning trusting ourselves, trusting our gut. So green flags, like, so, people are starting to date, they're looking online, they're seeing messaging, or they're getting on the phone. Like, what are some of the things that you would say or encourage women to look for, other than I want a healthy, honest, loyal, single man? I mean, I'm like, yeah, everybody wants that. So what are the green flags that and steps in that direction?
Carla?
Sherry, I feel like you could talk on the nervous system. So I'm going to leave that one to you, because we talk about that on the Love Fix a lot, about, calming your nervous system and the polyvagal and all that stuff. So I'm going to talk on the coaching side, and then I'm going to throw it to Sherry on the nervous system side. But
That's amazing.
I would say that the green flags that you want to look for is consistency. Okay. That sounds simple, but it is so powerful. Are they consistent? Do they show up on time? Do they say that they're going to follow through and actually do? This is from the very beginning. You meet somebody, dating app or in real life, whatever it might be, but the consistency is going to be key. You also want to see, are they consistent with falling off, coming back, falling off, coming back? Because that's also a consistency pattern there too, right? So you want to see, how are they consistent? And then you want to ask yourself, like, do I feel comfortable with it? Right? Is this okay for me? Back to your gut feeling. What's your gut telling you? And then another green flag I would say as well is, these are just like little ones in the beginning, but how are they treating the wait staff? If they're polite to the wait staff, awesome, green flag. How are they treating, the people around them, or how are they talking about people in the room, right? Because you can talk about people when you're on a date, that kind of thing. It's just kind of seeing how they interact with the world around them and being the observer. And so the green flags are positive if, they're being respectful, they seem kind, they're consistent with their communication in the sense that they're following through with things. They seem to have healthy relationships with people. They have a group of friends that they talk about, right? Those types of things are green flags and are important. They have a stable career, right? Those are all things that just show stability, but you need to get into the relationship and really date people. And this is why I say you have to take your time. A green flag is taking your time and not feeling rushed to get into that relationship quick, or we need to like seal the deal, because that's where you learn in this space over a couple weeks to a month, where you get to see, okay, oh, I see that, they reacted this way when they got upset about something at work, and they recovered really well. And we're able to see something really positive from it and grow. That's a green flag. So Sherry, I'm going to throw this back to you though on the nervous system, because I feel like you have good stuff to share on that.
What was the question about the nervous system? What was the question?
Well, no, the question was around green flags. And I was saying that a green flag would be you feel calm, but you can talk on the nervous system piece. Yeah.
How are we relating this? But that's perfect. What a great way to talk about the nervous system regulation. So we have the perfect nervous system. It regulates beautifully, but we have to understand where we are in our nervous system. Are we in fight flight? Fight flight is when, you want to flee, you want to fight. That's when you feel unsafe. You don't feel secure. You may also be in what's called the dorsal vagal, which is also, that's kind of in the middle, where you might be fawning. You might be, that codependency is coming up. You're people pleasing. You want them to like you. You're appeasing them. Maybe feeling hopeless. You might be feeling, obsessing, no one's ever going to want me. And then you go down that rabbit hole. That would be the dorsal vagal, where you feel stuck. And then the ventral vagal, what you're talking about, is where we're in calm. That's like our Zen space. And so I think what Carla was trying to say is, if you're in your ventral vagal and you are feeling calm and you feel safe, that is the best place to be. And that would be, like Carla said, an excellent green flag indicator.
And I just want to piggyback off of that too. Boring. Boring can be a green flag. If you're used to finding people who are ups and down and roller coasters, finding somebody who's a little bit boring can actually be a green flag.
Yeah.
My cousin
Maybe
told me
a
that.
reframe around boring, maybe consistent, present, not too colorful.
I mean, I'm just going to say boring. Like that's what my clients always come back to me. He's boring, but he's amazing. And now we're getting married. So,
Oh my
I
goodness.
mean, it's real. I mean, for someone who grew up in an intense environment and you're used to that activation and you're used to being in fight flight, it is going to feel boring. But you know what? When you start being treated with respect and honor and your self-esteem isn't, you're feeling good about yourself when you're with this person and you feel safe and you're secure, boring starts to kind of look good. I mean, let's just say steady Eddie, that feels good when you start getting used to it and you start realizing, that's why it takes someone who really has done the work to be in a healthy relationship. Because if you haven't done the work, you still want that bad boy. You still want that intensity. That's what feels good to you. Well, I'm sure all of you, if you think about all your bad boy relationships, how did that work out for you? Probably
well,
not great.
I was thinking this too. You can still have done the work and still be attracted to that type, but the work is coming through and recognizing you have choices. You don't have to pick those types of people and that you have tools so that you're keeping yourself in check.
I love that. I love that piece that you just offered, because it doesn't mean we're not going to go, ooh, it's just, wait a second.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm feeling all that. Oh yeah, I know that. I know that feeling. And it's interesting when you were talking about the charge and the excitement versus boring. It brought me back to this moment. It's like so completely like sideways here. I remember I was 19 and I went to a yoga experience of some sort. I don't remember what it was, but I remember leaving so in my bliss, so peaceful. And I met up with my friends that were like, bah, 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 and I remember being so in my peace. And I remember thinking, I feel really good, but this is boring. I want to be able to live life like colorful. And that was when I was 19. And now it's like, yeah, I love color in my life and steady Eddie and solid ground and healthy relationship, give, take, dance. And it takes our inner work to be able to show up for that and to be able to spot it and to have healthy boundaries around our own shit. Because at the end of the day, I know I have to keep in check and talk to my colleagues and my friends going, are you spotting anything? Am I diving in the deep end, or is this guy really like this is what just happened? So I think it's a never ending gray zone, gray area of checking in. And I love that you guys are talking about the nervous system and how am I feeling? How am I feeling? Because we can get that charge and excitement in so many different ways with a steady Eddie boring guy.
And we can get it by ourselves. I mean, steady Eddie can be over here, and then we can be doing all these really cool stuff like, running, jogging,
traveling,
or, taking a dance class, pickleball. Like you can be with steady Eddie, but their job isn't to like complete every aspect of you. Like there's also you over here. And there's so many wonderful things to do.
So good. So anything else you guys wanted to share about your own personal journey and some watch out for this when it comes to codependent relationships? Because I know so much is an inside job and we have to work on our own boundaries and people pleasing. And I know you guys have mentioned both the toxic relationships and codependency. So, are there any hot tips that you might offer to this woman who's like, I don't know where to start and I still have these slippery places and I don't want to end up there. And yet I want to start dating. It's a tricky place for a lot of people because otherwise we're never going to get out there because we're never going to be perfect.
Right. Well, I always look at it as a self-love journey, and it's a journey. There's no destination. So I loved what you were sharing earlier about how you check in with your friends. Sherry and I call each other and talk about things. Like we talk about dates and we talk about, hey, this happened. What do you think? Reflect this back. Sherry mirrored something back to me the other day and it made me look at it differently. Like I just think that there's no, there is absolutely, and Sherry, I can let you talk on your own story, but for me, I broke free of codependency. I've not been in a codependent relationship, gratefully, since 2015. And that is work. That is the work I've put in. I show up every day for myself around that work. It is ongoing commitment that I've made to myself. Okay. So I just have to put that out there. But I also have to say there's some really beautiful things and moments breaking free from it and being able to look at things differently and choose different types of partners and go on different types of dates. So there's so much freedom on the other side. Like it can feel really stuck and scary to
Mhm.
stay comfortable and where you're at, but there's so much beauty when you do the work and keep moving through it.
I do want to say one more thing before Sherry. I want to say that it is great to have somebody to run things by, and I wouldn't mind joining your
yeah.
club, you guys. But meanwhile, what I want to say is be mindful for those of you that are looking for who to talk to make sure it's somebody that really is a good resource for you, because there are other people, and I know some people in my life that are not going to be my go-tos because I know they have not done the work, and they're going to have their oh well fuck him kind of attitude, or
Yes.
not be able to hear what I have to say without maybe projecting on me or him. So to be really mindful of where you land and with whom for that feedback. So I just wanted to like add that. It's because you guys like, oh my God, let's chat.
Say a couple of things. I'm going to say that every relationship comes in our lives for a reason. And so just look at it without shame and blame and as an opportunity to heal and grow and just become the best version of yourself. That's really, what it's all about. And nurture a relationship with you. If you're getting in toxic relationships, you just might have a toxic relationship with yourself. So that's the time to go a little deeper, hire the right therapist. And finally, you may relapse. I not that long ago ended up turning myself into a pretzel for someone. I got manipulated again, and I went for the. I just did, and I have all the healing and I've done all the
Yes.
work and I talk about this subject.
Yes.
And I don't beat myself up. It's like, okay, well, at least I got out of this one a little faster. It was a long distance thing. I didn't really know the person. So, I don't beat myself up. But if you do end up relapsing, just like alcoholics and addicts relapse, we can relapse too. And then we just take that information and we move on. We don't beat ourselves up.
I love that you're so transparent. I mean, that's what's so beautiful about you guys is, you share your own journey and you're open about your own experiences. And I do the same. And I just think it's so important for us to not, I always say, I'm not on the mountaintop. I'm still working my stuff too. And that we have to be kind to ourselves and not beat ourselves up, because we are human beings with a history. And just because we're helping people with love coaching and relationships doesn't mean we are perfect, and we're on our
100%.
own journey too.
Yes.
Our own journey too. So
Yes.
people get to learn from us while we're experimenting in our own way.
Yeah.
I know you guys have a really awesome quiz. Can you share about it? Because I'd love for them to take this.
Absolutely. So Sherry and I put together this quiz, and it is, are my relationships unhealthy? All right. And that's just for anybody who's just curious. It's a really simple quiz. You can go to thelovefix.com. That's thelovefix.com. Take the quiz. It's a free quiz. You don't have to pay anything. But Sherry and I put it together, and Sherry's brains of being a therapist and also being a coach is really complementary to some of the questions and the results. And then obviously my coaching expertise around dating and relationships really complements it. So it's a really, I think it's a really comprehensive quiz that can just kind of get you focused and aware of where you're at in terms of your relationships.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, amazing. I mean, the more information we have and the more we're able to like stop and look at ourselves and ask these important questions and have that guidance is so key. So we'll put the link in the show notes. So definitely take advantage of the quiz. I think that is awesome to check in with yourself and look at what your history is around relationships, and are they healthy or are they unhealthy, and what might you do differently as you go forward. So beautiful. So good. So any last words, sisters? Because we are at time. That went so fast. Any last words about love, relationships, going for it? Love doesn't have to suck.
I appreciate you having the Love Fix on your podcast.
Thank you very, very much. We love being here.
Oh, thanks, guys. I think you guys are doing such amazing work in the world, and I'm thrilled to share your message, because love doesn't have to suck. And there are some tools that we can implement. All right. Well, thank you for being here. And soul sister, I hope you got a ton out of this episode. I'm sure you did. Please share it with your friends, like and subscribe to the station, put your comments below. And until we meet again, mwah.